Managing 3,400 people is very difficult, but you find the right people around you to help you manage them, then you can get there. So it all comes down to having the right people around you.
Welcome to another episode of my podcast, Relentless Life on Your Terms. Here we are at the Wisecast Studios in Sydney with a special guest, Wayne Xiong. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I was very excited to talk to you. I see you have a very big real estate background.
Yes.
I'm in real estate as well, so I always like talking to people in real estate. You've been in over 3 decades in real estate, running different businesses. Tell us a bit about how you started in real estate. I know you told me off air that you were in property when you built up. Tell me a bit about it.
I think it's starting point is basically uni time. Needed to look for a job, and I thought, what do I do? But I thought I always loved property, so I got into property management as just a assistant property manager when I was at uni part-time. Then I just then grow into being in sales. I was working for El Jococo Mascot, and I think then I actually won the awards for top salesperson, probably second year in a row. Then moving to setting projects, and then slowly moving to developments. So
before we go there, just quickly, you won the Salesman of the Year 2 years in a row. What was your secret? What made you good at real estate in your opinion?
I think at that time, when you look at how you compete with everybody to go for listings, you always think strategies, right? And I think, what's my age? My age is not going to be the most experienced real estate agent to do for listings. So what I thought I would be the hardest working person. So I always make sure I do my listings at night, where it's comfortable for the homeowners to sit back after work, where all the others most try to organize appointment during the day and all. Then I took my time, do a lot of research. And I think the point is I'm the most aggressive to find you the appropriate buyer.
So basically, point of difference, night appointments to give them the flexibility, very well researched, so data backed, and extremely hardworking.
Extremely hardworking.
So if you work with me, I'll get the job done and I'll work around you.
That's correct.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
So after that progressed into?
Setting projects, a company called Xiong Company. We were setting projects in Sydney, and it was a point that we was the first starting to do home appointments. Again, evening appointments. I remember at that time, Aussie Home Loan first started, and they were following us doing in the evening home appointments. And we were also the first setting property interstate. So we're setting townhouse and all that in Queensland. So that actually went pretty well for a few years. So that was the project setting background. I started loving real estate projects more than just the listing and resales.
I hear that. I actually was an in-home consultant for many years before I started Revent almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was also working for a Brisbane-based developer.
Oh.
Doing in-home appointments.
Yes.
6-7 days a week, 6:30 and 8:30. So we're doing 10, 12, 2, 4, 6, 7, and 8:30.
Yeah.
So very similar.
Very similar. So we started Xiong Company 1995 of my memory, and we were advertising in AM radios. I think that's probably not the mainstream radio you advertise now, but at that time, the client base is ideal because only a certain age listen to AM, not FM, or the talk shows. And we do peak hour between 5 to 7. It's everybody standing by the phone.
On their way home.
Typically saying buying investment properties that cost you $5 a week, $10 a week, that sort of stuff.
Wow, very
With
similar.
negative gearing. Yeah, very similar stuff.
Very similar stuff. I love that industry, and it actually grounded me into starting a business of that nature.
Yeah.
We were actually selling about 100 to 120 pieces a month. From 2 offices, St Kilda Road and one in Darling Harbour.
Right.
All Brisbane-based developments.
Right, yeah. So we saw Brisbane, Queensland, Gold Coast, and also Sydney as well. And we're selling a lot for Meriton at that time back in Sydney. So I think I was one stage with the biggest project agent for Meriton in Sydney. So that went on pretty well. And I just started loving property development.
So at that point, you've obviously grown the business exponentially. Now you've got over 3,400 on your team globally.
Oh, not at the moment. That was the previous job. So Aqualand, right now we have about 400 staff, but I had an amazing job globally. So I started Aqualand with Jean, lovely Jean, back in 2014. The two of us started the company. Then 2018, I left seeking some more experiences. I said to myself, and the family is very close to me, if I need to grow the business, I need to get new experiences, and maybe getting out of the country is a good idea to see how the global market plays. So I had a very big job with Country Garden at that time. At that prime time, I was the head of global business. So 6 different countries, America, Canada, UK, Australia, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Had about 3,400 people in different regions working for me. 3 countries were self-deliver. And I was also the head of investment for the global business, deploy about $1 billion US capital, and live projects about $6 billion. That's under construction, not pipeline.
That's insane.
And it's very insane, especially in Indonesia and Malaysia. Those numbers translate to massive numbers.
They're massive.
So one of the project I had to do the finalization and handover was about 8,300 apartments altogether in 4 months. I was helicopter landed, run this, make sure they're all finishing 4 months, safe handover. Big job.
8,300 apartments.
In one go.
It's incredible. Yes. Over a 4-month period.
Over a 4-month period, not completion, not the whole construction, but the completion period is the most important. You need to finish them well. And I think about 7,000 of them were sold. So you have to deal with all the purchasers come over to inspect settlements, everything.
The final inspections.
Yeah.
Over 2,000 apartments a month. That's
crazy. It is very, very crazy.
So working across all these different countries, obviously, as we discussed before, would have been very, very challenging.
Yes, very, very challenging. I think the first time I got onto the job when I'm back in China, I didn't realize how big the scale is. And then obviously you use the best knowledge you know from what you learn in Australia, and then you realize whatever you know from Australia, the scale is too small. So you really have to be very adaptable to, the new environment, and really quickly learn from executives how do they manage things. So I think the good part of that job is instead of using your experience, you throw your books out and become a student very, very quickly in that environment.
But would you would obviously lean on local people that have the understanding of how that culture, the systems, the process would work?
Yeah. So one of the things I always believe in people, and typical global expansions, you do send a lot of people from China and Hong Kong to manage it, and they didn't rely on very much on local experiences. And I think then they hit a brick wall when things are not working. So I was kind of there thrown to the job to fix the problem. Well, I have no idea how to manage that many people, but one thing I always believe in is local experience.
Of course.
When you do international business, I mean, the core value of the company can come from the head office. But when you are in operation, you need local knowledge, you need local experience, you need local contacts. You need people locally that has gone through different market cycles to educate you and lead the business while you're making decisions. So your decision can only be as good as the information you collect and the process of working out what is the best way of moving forward, solving problems. And you need a very, very good team give you advices on this. Not just people from overseas thinking, I can do it that way. Even Australians, I find a global business, my experience in Australia works very well in UK, very similar game, very different in America already. Although we all speak English, very different systems.
Different systems, processes, cultures.
Cultures different. Managing people is also very, very challenging as well. So, but once you start understanding you need to adapt to different countries very differently, then you start working out different rules for different regions and how it works and what sort of people do you have around you to help you manage the business.
I understood that. I watched a documentary on people that expand globally, and that's the first thing that they lean on is finding great heads of departments that live in that country, that understand the culture, the environment, the systems, the processes, the policies. Yep. Otherwise, if you're from America and you're coming into a different country and you're trying to run it your way,
it doesn't work.
You won't be as effective.
No,
you won't be effective at all.
Yeah, it doesn't work. But then the challenge is when you only have local people, don't have anyone from the head office, then your corporate governance, how you run your finance modeling and things like that will also not work. So you really need somebody sort of other than local. So we have local CEOs in every region, some from overseas, but very close culture to that particular country and very similar experience. But you also do need someone from the head office to hold everything together.
Keep the gel
That's
together.
Correct. So that job is apparently very, very hard to do because I think that experience, particular Country Garden was from China. They relied on very experienced Chinese executive to do it. Therefore, they start realize the Western culture and the Eastern culture are very, very different in management as well. So I think I was the first very high executive in the company that has the Western experience while being Chinese. So I'm a good hybrid for them to have to manage it that way. And I think the multicultural is very, very important. I think one thing Australian does very, very well in our working culture is multicultural.
Because we're so
we are the best multicultural country in the world, in my own experience. No any other country has done as well as us. Wow. Not within a country, not within a company like Aqualand that I'm at. We've got people from everywhere. Everybody bring the best of their cultures, and you start understanding the differences and manage people differently. I think we naturally do it in Australia. When you go to a different country, you find it's unnatural for people to try to do things your way because you're Chinese or you're Malaysian, you are maybe Indonesian or America. But we naturally just have this. I think we grew up with it in this country, and that's how blessed we are in this country. Not realizing how well we are handling
that it's right here.
Yeah, it's right here.
We've got so many cultures in Australia. We can enjoy our food, we can enjoy business together, and it does open our minds up.
Yes, yes.
Now I read that some of your inspirations, a few people that you look up to.
Yes.
Were obviously your mother.
Mom, yes. My mom is always be the strongest support and biggest inspiration in my life. But she's a tiger mom, very, very tough.
That's good. She creates tough kids.
Yes, and because she was very famous back in China, she was the most famous pianist, and then she moved into teaching. I still remember when she was 65 or 68, went back to China, have a signing, and all the teachers, because she does piano lesson books, she had a very random session. More than 2,000 people turned up, flew anywhere, just everywhere from China just to meet her and greet her because everybody used her books. I think almost 8 out of 10 kids in China use her piano lesson books.
That's insane.
Yeah. So, but it's actually very, very hard to grow up in sort of like under that light because, obviously she tried to make me piano and it was a bit too tough. You can't lose a piano competition and all that. But I think later on in my life, I found all these tough requests had made me very, very tough as well. So it took me a while to understand how important it is. But once I understand it, I'm really, really thankful.
So I guess upon reflection, it's easier to see. I always say it's easier to join the dots backwards than it is forwards.
Yes.
Because you've got the roadmap and you can actually see it.
Yeah.
You also stated a couple of your other inspirations are, of course, Elon Musk,
Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs. I think it's lately I think it's with the period when I was managing big companies, and you always wonder what are the keys, what are key components, and what do you need to concentrate on to not only make the company do well, but hold the team together and keep the company thriving. And it comes down to people. Both of these people, I mean, although Steve Jobs is very big on product, and I'm a big believer on product. Doesn't matter what we do, we need to create a product that people buy. We do a podcast. Podcast is your product. You have to create the best product people will listen to. But then behind the product, it's really people. So I remember one of these interviews, Steve Jobs said his key, most important for him is find the best people and surround him by the best people, and bring out the best of them to create a product that is suitable for the consumer. Don't use the sales strategy to do it. You find out what they want and do create the most suitable product. So that's around the right people you can create the product. And then with Elon Musk as well, it's actually more. I mean, he's talked a lot about what he believes in, but one thing that also inspired me is he started realizing before he always looked for the most capable people. He doesn't pay much attention to, the moral standards, how ethical they are. Then he realized that has hurt him very much along the way, although he had capable people. So working ethics is the first thing you look at, beyond just how capable the person is. If he doesn't think the person is the most suitable for that position, he won't go. So you'll find some of the most successful people in the world, they come down to really pay attention to people. And I think from those, I mean, managing 3,400 people was very difficult, but
Of course.
you find the right people around you to help you manage them, then you can get there. So it all comes down to having the right people around you.
When I was in America, I was fortunate enough to hear Steve Wozniak speak, and he spoke about Steve Jobs as well, and the importance in finding really good people and just letting them do their thing.
That's correct.
Don't hire someone very smart and tell him what to do.
Yes.
Let them thrive in an environment and making sure they have what they need to create an amazing product or an amazing brand.
Yes.
Which you saw that in a lot of Steve Jobs' work. But I've heard him speak on a number of times when he mentioned Aqualand from Sony, and that was his inspiration, that he followed a lot of his marketing methodologies, and even as far as the iPad, the Sony Walkman, to be as part of the iPod. And I saw so many similarities and how much he looked up to him.
Yep.
And then how he ran Apple.
Yep.
It was actually incredible. I think it was about a marketer, of course, but Aki Morita also was amazing, and he did a lot for Sony.
Yes. And I think every one of us has someone in your business life that you look up to and inspire you, and you follow their footsteps on some principles. I think we all do that. Yeah.
Something else that caught my interest, I saw that you were a very, very good chess player.
I was all right. Wasn't the best in the world.
You were 17th in the world.
I was 17th in the world. And that's after I quit piano because mom was too hard. She always says, nobody remembers number 2. So I always had to be number 1. And I was a young kid. There was a lot of pressure. So I rebelled and I said, stuff this. I'm going to do something different. And I started playing chess. So I think it was when I was 15, World Junior Championship.
How long did you play chess for?
About 6 years.
I want to ask you, because they say there's a lot of parallels between chess and business, thinking ahead and being strategic. I played snooker, which is not chess, but you've got to think 3, 4, 5 shots ahead when you're looking at positioning the next shot.
Yep.
I think chess is very, very similar. Grandmaster thinks 10 shots ahead or 10 moves ahead. Yep. How much parallels or how many lessons did you take away from chess and implement it in your business life?
I think with the training of chess, all my life I've been guided by the way you think about what you do and how you do things. I think strategic thinking of the whole picture. When you look at chess, you never look at one move. You actually start studying every game about your opponent before you do anything. You look at how he does the opening, what's his favorite game style. And the strategy actually goes beyond the chess game. It starts from studying your opponent. And you always create how you play the game. And I've won, and I wasn't the best in the world. I was okay. But I've won some games where people rank way ahead of me by playing more strategic, playing a player rather than the game. So you look at chess. Chess is a game where you start from looking at the big picture all the time. Start from beyond the chess game. So I think that way of thinking, and then you plan your moves. Everything is planned and strategically designed. You never look at a piece in front of you, look at the whole game. You always plan not just what your move will be, but what the opponent will do. I mean, probably five steps ahead is probably what you need to do, but that's crazy calculations. I think, but the thing is, start thinking about that's the end game, what I need to do, but what will happen if I do this? Analyze every possibilities, and then work out what's your next move. It has been always something that's stuck in my mind, how I think about
strategic thinking and
thinking ahead. Everything is well planned.
So especially when you're thinking of businesses that have thousands of people, that is I would imagine, such an important component to getting it right.
Yes, to get it right. And also when you start the job is, how do I do it right? You want to get there. And then you sit down. You actually, before you do something, you always sit down and think first before you make a move. And that's a habit I always have. You don't just say, all right, I'm on the job, let's do this. You think about, how do I get there, what I need to do. Then you probably spend quite a bit of time. I mean, my first month on the job, I actually did nothing but sit down and learn. Didn't make any move, didn't call any shots. I flew to every region, and because I decided until I know the game, otherwise I can't play it. So my whole first month was studying, finding out each region, what is different to what I know, and who do I go to, what other consultants I go to. So it was basically at probably 1 month of schooling, and even to the point my boss saying, you haven't done anything but just being quiet. I said, yeah, I'll get there, but it's a whole month of sitting down, not making any decisions, just to find out what's happening. How does this country's planning work? What's the difference in law in this country? Who are the best for me to talk to, and tell me the story about a property cycle in this country, that sort of stuff. A whole month, nothing. But I think most people think, oh, I'll go there, I've got to do something, got to fix. And I think just because of this strategic thinking, when you sit down and say, well, how do I get there? An idea will come to you. You start to realize.
You're building the foundation, the understanding of what move, how to make,
Yep.
and putting all your work on the planning, the preparation side.
Yeah.
To be able to move.
Yeah. And it helped all the way. I mean, even come back to Australia. I mean, even when I was building Aqualand with the family, there are so many new developers coming to the country, especially when capital came from China. I mean, I'm very glad after 10 years, Aqualand standing out to be the most successful one. And we are moving to be a large corporate, in the scale of close to some of the big public companies. Well, you see the differences when we first started. We sit there and say, we buy this site, we do this development. Then I said, well, we're going to be just the same as others. We need to have a plan. We have a business plan. So we start buying from 2000, a year later, very strategic acquisitions of development site that suits a business plan. Most people buy development sites, work on feasibilities and profit. We had a picture of where the business wanted to be, and we do our acquisitions in accordance to that. So you'll find after about 2 or 3 projects, we're standing out to be very, very different to all others.
It's kind of like what you said about chess. You're not thinking of the next move. You're thinking about the opponent and the board.
Yes.
I'm thinking ahead of, where does my product need to be? Where does my brand need to
correct.
be? How do I get towards that destination? Not just how do I make money on the next project? How do I sell the next project? This is where I want to be. How do I get there quicker?
Yeah, and you find interesting when you have a business plan, you buy your acquisitions a lot quicker because, I mean, this last round I was acquiring as well for the Prestige business. We have a different business plan.
The Aqualand Prestige.
Yeah. So we talk about it, I say, but I get feed sites, 2-3 sites a week. Now, if you don't have a business plan, you end up spreading very thin with your time looking at sites and try to just crunch numbers. If you have a business plan, actually my acquisition is always done very well in a very short period. Never had problem not concentrating on the right side or concentrating on the wrong side, because things fitting to your business plan will be very, very clear to you. Then you know what you spend your time on, and you can very easily identify what is a strategic site you need to go
So
for.
you have, I had another person say that to me. He goes, he gets so many sites come across his desk
you're overwhelmed.
so many times, and they ran a big development company. They had a property management arm. And he goes, half of my job is seeing what doesn't fit. It's very, very quick.
Yep.
And I'll get them right back down. Then I'll look at them, because if you've got so many sites, how can you?
You get 2 or 3. Just reading the
so you've got
IM
the
will
process,
frustrate
the
you.
guidelines.
Yep.
Yes, it fits. No, it doesn't. This deserves more time.
Yeah, and the better the business plan, the more refined the box is.
The filter.
The filter, the box. So you get very, very clear. And you also do your business plan looking at the greater policies as well. It's not just a business plan that you isolated from the real world out there. So if you start like the Prestige business, look at the business plan, you look at the greater policy, what the property market will be like, what are the new supplies are, what are the new opportunities come up, then you design business plan in accordance to the external environment as well and what's coming up. So I think Prestige has done pretty well. I think in the last 4 or 5 months, we've secured about $900 million pipeline, which in a very short period, normally people say, I'll be looking for sites for 2 years. I can't find anything. I've got a lot of mates. They're very big executives in companies. Sometimes they do get lost to be looking for a year and a half. And but it's actually, if you really have a very defined business plan, finding these sites, it's challenging, don't get me wrong, but it's not that hard to identify what's the right site. And if you set up the business in the right moment and you're in the right cycle and you know what's coming up, you almost kind of can foresee what it will be.
Start to predict the pattern.
Yeah. So everything I've bought is pretty much predicted when I was talking to Jean about the new business plan late last year. So nothing surprised us.
More time up front, coming up with your operating rhythm or your cadence of what fits into your guidelines.
Yeah.
Then as the projects come, you're very disciplined with a yes or a no, which was how you were able within 4 months to put $900 million in potential
Yes, pipeline.
developments.
Yeah, which is only
Pipeline.
we only start looking from about March. We secured the sites by about June, July. So,
So you think for the people that can't find sites, they don't have that definition clear enough?
I think some of them, if they have, yeah, I think so. Depending on the business structure, I see a lot of companies, big companies, where the investment manager are not the driver of a business plan, where sometimes they haven't been told very clearly where the business wants to go and what the strategy is. So they just work on feasibilities to buy a site, and that's an ultimate nightmare because there are many sites can spin out a good number, while there are many it doesn't work. But then they have the frustration also, and I've seen there are a few companies. Mates are investment managers here. Their board is overseas. They think they found the right side, go to board. The board rejects it, and they never know why. I think there is something lost in the business plan where if the number works, why we're not buying the site, and there's never enough feedback. Sometimes they pick on the numbers to say that's not suitable. I think it's just a business that's probably they should have a review on what do we really want to do in the next 2-3 years. What is the product that we need to create, and what is the destiny we want to be in 3 to 4 years' time? Without that clear sight, your business won't get there. You just be another company with money to buy another site.
It's a clear destination of where you're going.
And you'd be surprised how common that is in the world. And I know a lot of big company operators.
Because they're just operating.
Yep.
They haven't got a blueprint of, I need to get exactly this location by this date.
Yeah. And what does the business want to do? What are the new opportunities in the business? Because market changes all the time. And if you do what you were doing 10 years ago, that may not be suitable today to help you to grow to the next stage. So you need to review your business plan every 3 to 5 years to create
a vision. How far out does your business plan go?
We have, as long when we first built Aqualand, the vision is to build a base that will last 15 years. So it is pretty long. I think in 4 years, the acquisition will last Aqualand's original business plan very successfully for about 15 years. The mission now is to create a business model that will go for another 15 years.
And then you review it every 3 to 5?
You review every 3 to 5. So we've done the first stage. When we finish it, on the way, you learn, and you review what is your strength, what have you achieved, and what have you for short on, and also you review if the same business plan will continue to work for the next 3 to 5 years. You need small adjustments along the way. But when you work on a business model, I think beyond business plan is the business model. Some business model can work for a long time. Business plan executed under the business model. So I think the most important is to work out what's the right business model. Then you can work out a business plan that will last you, 5 to 15 years. Property is a slow game. Things.
I always say it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's
not.
Planning better for tomorrow. It's a 7-10 year proposition.
Yeah.
I'm obviously talking about just investment real estate, but you're talking about big projects.
Yeah.
It's a long-term view though.
Long-term. And especially looking at Sydney, unfortunately, we are in a state where the planning system is the most broken. Average property cycle from zonings done to built is 72 months now, which is horrible.
Wow.
I think 20 years ago when we were in property, not as senior as now, you can get your DA in 6 months.
And that's 5 years. Now
it was 3 years before the whole cycle from zone. It's 72 months in average. That means they are taking longer.
A lot longer.
There are multiple problems. However, the system unfortunately is very, very broken, and government is trying to do the best they can. But the reality is, especially in property, you do need a long-term plan because once you're stuck with the property, you're stuck there for 3-4 years. So
now, can I ask you? Obviously, I could talk real estate and business with you all day.
Sure.
I love the way you think,
especially property.
I love the way you think, and I can see why you play chess. And it's very, very good to challenge you and ask you questions. Give me one of the key what would you say to yourself 10 years ago? If you were younger, 10 years younger version, what would you say to yourself?
To live my time again?
What advice would you give a younger?
I think the first thing, and then there are key components, everybody wants to be successful. It can be a dream, an ambition, whatever. The first thing is you need to work out what is the priority. And I don't define success as always in business, right? Because there are sacrifices. It's very important to have a clear sight on where I want to be in 10 years. And then you need to picture that. Very, very simple. So 10 years ago, I pictured very, very clearly where I wanted to be. And I'm very, very glad I got there. But along the way also, with young people is, first thing is whatever you want to do, I believe in hard work. You've got to prepare to work very, very, very hard. And that's not guaranteeing you anything, as a matter of fact. It's just essential. People say, I work very hard. 90% of the people working hard don't get anywhere.
It's a given. You need
It's a given. Second is, how do I think differently to others? And that's the key, because a lot of people just prepare to work hard. They never thought,
how stand out?
How do I stand out? How do I make a difference? Making a difference starts from thinking differently.
Yeah.
And thinking differently is actually, when you look at the world, most of people think very much alike, not being creative. So you need to find an angle, a niche angle of what makes you different to others. And you need to have that thinking in you all the time. Then with that thinking, you can create an angle for the business. So always in your mind thinking, how do I think differently? Don't say I want to stand out. Say to yourself, how do I think differently?
Apple's logo. But if you look at even when you're sales, you always hardworking. You'll do your appointments at night time. You'd come well researched and a lots of preparation. It's the very same story for your journey. When you reflect back on when you were good at sales and you got best salesman 2 years in a row, you thought you had that same thought process.
How do I do things differently? Yeah, because to make a difference, you need to think differently. So thinking first before action. And that's always, and I think that's something you always need to have in your mind.
Absolutely love. All right, so are you ready for your quick fire questions?
Okay.
If you could master any skill instantly, what would it be?
Well, be happy.
What's your favorite quote and why?
Opportunity favors the prepared mind.
I love that. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Be happy.
You love to be happy, huh?
Yes.
What's one thing that you can't live without?
Love.
What is the most important lesson that you have learned so far?
Never think you're the smartest man in the room.
You're in the wrong room. How do you define success?
When you have a balance between recognition and happiness and have close people around you, that makes success.
If you could switch lives with anyone for one day, who would it be?
Elon Musk.
What is your guilty pleasure TV show or movie?
Oh, guilty pleasure. The Notebook, because I have tears with it. Makes me feel so soft.
What's your favorite way to challenge yourself?
Thinking that what I've done is not the best I could deliver.
So keep going, moving forward and keep
always question whether you've done the best or not.
That's that deep thinking, the strategic thinking we talked about. What's one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
Oh, other than the chess, I'm a great piano player. I still can write songs.
How do you stay focused under pressure?
Oh. I think there's no strategy. I just get used to having pressure. That becomes part of I think one thing I said to myself, simple is be more disciplined. Once you are disciplined under pressure, you focus more.
Because you're prepared.
So normally you see me, getting up earlier, go to the gym more on time. So I'm going through a stressful time when I'm really, really disciplined on everything.
So you're more focused, you're more laser.
Focused, yep.
You show up. What's the most daring thing you've ever done?
Bungee jumping.
Yeah, I did that. That was terrifying. I'm scared of heights. If you could give one piece of advice to your future self, what would it be?
Drink less.
What's your favorite way to celebrate success?
Oh,
more.
No. I think I like to be surrounded with people that is a part of the journey, and probably do have a celebration drink with them. Yes.
What's the most interesting place you've ever traveled to?
Wow. Japan. This 2,000-year-old temple was the first temple ever built in Japan when Buddhism landed. I never felt such way of peace ever in my life. That's the most interesting. And I'm always a very hyped up guy, active. I could just sit there for 2 hours. And that was, very, very big graveyard, very funny. All the famous people got buried there, but normally you're scared of graveyards. You go there, you found absolute peace. It's very, really, really interesting. I still can't figure out how I got there. How did I get there? Yeah.
Last question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much have you enjoyed being on our podcast?
10. It's been
It's
great.
an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so
talking
much.
to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.